Okay, we are going to do an animal morph here. So hopefully what you did, step one, was to find an animal image. So I found a parrot. I thought that a profile would be a good pose for this bird instead of sort of a straight on. I thought it might be a little bit obscure. I also liked as a profile here, I'm going to do some adjustments to my face to sort of make myself even more parrot-like. So this is going to be step one. You can see my picture right here is a very low resolution picture I just took with a bad computer camera. You're going to try to use a very high resolution picture so that your blends and smoothings and all that stuff will be as clear as possible. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I am going to, maybe I'll zoom out just a little bit, is I'm going to set my cropping tool. So I'm going to go 8.5 inches by 11 inches by 150 pixels per inch, and I'm going to crop this image like so. All right. Bring this down a little bit. Looks good. I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm going to say check. All right, then I'm going to zoom back out here. So this gets me started. Then I'm going to go to my parrot. I'm going to do the same thing. My cropping tool is already set. So I'm going to just grab part of this parrot here, and I'm going to say OK. So now my parrot is the same size. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can see it. I'm going to say Control A, which is copy. I'm going to paste it. Control C, and I'm going to right here on the top. If you don't see my layers, I'm going to double click. There they are. So now I have a parrot, and I have my macaw, and I have my face. So it doesn't matter what layer these orders. I'm sorry, what order these layers are in. But I like to have my background on the top here. So I'm going to double click on background. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to bring this layer below. So now I'm on the top. My parrot is on the bottom. Now you don't have to line this up exactly with the image that's below it. I am just using that image for a reference so that I can just peek at it every once in a while. You know, by no means do you have to like go through there and try to line up things exactly. All right, I'm just going to look at it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a close look at my parrot here, and I'm going to see that the eye is very close to the top of the head. The beak obviously is a huge part of this bird, right, the macaw. And you know, like the forehead here is sort of pronounced, but it's very flat up here, and then the eye is pushed back a little bit. So I'm going to look at my own face, and I'm going to start to figure out what I'm going to do. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the eyeball. So I'm going to take my marquee tool, and I'm going to select my eye, like so. All right, and you can use any of these. You can use the lasso tool that we've used. You could use the magic wand tool to select. These are all selecting tools up here. I am going to make sure I'm on layer 0, because this is the layer I want to cut and paste from. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste. So here is my new eye. I'm going to place that eye right there where I think it should go. Okay. Now the problem is I have my old eye. I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to hide layer 2. So I see layer 0 here. I'm going to select layer 0, and I'm going to use my healing, or I'm sorry, my cloning tool here. So make sure you got the clone stamp. Okay. I'm going to make my brush a little bigger using the parentheses key. I'm going to come up here, make sure my brush is very soft, which it is. I am going to hold down the Alt key on my keyboard. That makes the little target. I'm going to hold down the Alt. I'm going to click on my cheek once with the mouse and let go. You saw it flash there. I'm going to let go of the Alt key, and then I'm going to start to paint. And whatever's underneath that little arrow, or that crosshairs, is going to paint in my eye. All right, I also want to get rid of my eyebrow. So again, I'm going to hold down the Alt key. I'm going to reposition. I'm going to choose this darker color on my cheek here. I'm going to click once with my mouse, let go of the Alt key, and I'm going to paint this out like that. So now when I go back to my eyeball, I'm going to turn it on. Here it is. Great. So this one's gone, and this one appears. Now the only problem is that I have this box around the outside of my eye where I cut and paste. So I'm going to get rid of that. Now I could use my eraser tool, but the problem with the eraser tool is that it's going to get rid of it forever. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create on layer 2 a layer mask. Very good. I'm going to use my black paintbrush, flip-flop to black. I'm going to make my brush a little bigger using the parentheses keys or my menu. And then here I'm going to turn down the opacity a little bit. Right now if I just cut right through that, it's going to disappear. But now if I turn this down to like 69, 77%, and I paint, it's a little bit of a softer transition than just like that immediate chop, right? How about that, right? Pretty good. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at my parrot, and I'm going to notice that obviously the beak here, right? So I'm going to go back to my picture. I'm going to make sure I've selected layer 0. I'm going to use my marquee tool. I'm going to select the nose, just like that, right? I'm going to say Control Copy, Control Paste, and then here it is, layer 3. I'm going to show my transforming controls, which are right here, right? That gives me a little outline. I'm going to hold down my Shift key. And honestly, for this, since it's supposed to be sort of weird, maybe I won't hold down my Shift key. I'm just going to make it all sort of bizarre. Okay, and I'm even going to rotate it just a little bit so that it feels a little more parrot-like. Just like, maybe I'll bring it down a little further, just like that. Okay, I'm going to hit my check mark, like so. I'm going to hide my transform control so I can see. Now again, I have that box around the outside edge, so I'm going to go to my layer 3. I'm going to put a layer mask on that, just like so. Paintbrush, a little bit bigger brush this time, and I'm just going to paint out the edge of this so that it blends a little bit better under here. I'm going to paint out under the nose. Here we go. A guy you certainly want to run into in a dark alley. Now this, I want this to be a little sharper up here, so I'm going to use a sharper brush. And I'm going to just trim that out. Now again, if you had a higher resolution picture, your edges would be a little cleaner. Mine is pretty soft. All right, so there, I blended that in pretty good. I like that. All right, I'm going to look back at my picture here. Again, now the top of my head needs to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to use my marquee tool. I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 0. I'm going to copy this part of my head, like so. I'm going to say Control-C, Control-V is paste. So here's the top of my head right now. I'm going to go to my moving tool, my transform controls. I'm going to bring this down. Now really, I have not used any controls here that we have not used in other projects. You should be familiar with most all these tools. Okay, I'm going to hit the check mark to say OK. I'm going to hide those transform controls so I can see what I'm doing. And then again, I'm going to go and get rid of this in the background. So I'm going to hide the hair for a second. I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 0. I'm going to use my cloning stamp. I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush. I'm going to hold down the Alt button. I'm going to click once with my mouse and let go. Oops. And I'm going to start painting in this hair. You can see I keep resampling here because that brush is so big. You know, see how I get the outside edge of that line? Like I don't want that line in there. So I'm going to click over here. Try to sample from colors that are similar to where you're going. You don't want, you know, like a weird color blend here. Here we go. Bring the head back. Let's see where we're at. Perfect. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to layer 4, which is the hair here. I can use these eyeballs to make it appear and disappear. I'm going to put a layer mask. Very good. Black paintbrush. Soft edge here. All right, I see a little bit of that hair from behind show up, but that's fine. I can go back with my healing brush. I'm going to blend this line here a little bit. And then I'm going to feather that bit of the hair right there. All right, so right here, this is on the layer below it. So I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 0. I'm going to use my cloning brush again. There it is. Alt-click, and just brush this part of the hair out a little bit more. Let's go back here. Oh, a little too much. Oops. So I can undo that. Maybe I'll go layer 0. I'll do it with the layer showing so I can see it. There we go. Just a little bit like that. There you go. Look at that guy. Holy parrot man. There you go. So that's sort of that first portion of it here. Okay, you can use the body, you can trim it, you can cut it. You know, obviously you can make the neck skinnier. Really just your creativity is the limit here. And that's the end of part 1.